Hello everyone. In this lab exercise, we will see how storage volumes can be created and how it can be presented to Docker containers. In our previous video, we have seen how bind mount works. So let us do a recap of bind mount. I will go to the command prompt, and if I say Docker version, so this is the Docker version, Docker client, and Docker ps-a. So there is no containers which are running, and if I use Docker images, there is one image which is there in my local repository. What I will do is I'll remove the image and nginx. So the image is also deleted. So we don't have any image. I'll clear the screen and I will the command prompt little more wider. So we will be able to see the commands properly. In our previous exercise, what we have done is we have created a folder. This is a local host folder which we were able to successfully mount inside the container. And this is the index.html file which is simulating as website of the container. So this index.html has some content. So this is the content which we were able to successfully browse, and we were able to see the content when we browse to the container website. Let us create a container with bind mount again. Docker run -d. Before that, I'll see Docker ps-a. There is no container which is running, and there is also no images which is there in the local repository. If I run the container and I will run in the background Docker run -d and name web01, and I have to use volume. I can use dash volume, or I can simply go with -v. And in the previous exercise, if you remember, we were able to successfully use the absolute path of the Windows file system. And I wanted to mount this local host file system to the container file system, which will be /usr share nginx and html. So this is the folder to which I wanted to mount the local folder as a bind mount, and port I wanted to use as 8080. This will be the container port for 80, and nginx is the image. Now it is going to pull the image from the up.docker.com, and it is going to bind the folder, the local host folder, to the container folder. It is pulling from the up.docker.com to create the container. So once the container is created, we should be able to browse this particular content. So we should be able to see the content, the same content inside the browser. And Docker ps-a, we can see there is a container which is running, and local host port is 8080 mapped to container port 80. And if I open the browser and I will use local host 8080, too many zeros, 8080, yes, we are able to successfully see the content. So this is the website content. Fine. I can also use HTTP like this, 127.0.0.1 and 8080. We are able to see the same content again. So this is the content, right, for the website. What if I have updated the index.html file? I'll say hello Neo. There is a new Docker course URSE from Learn Cloud Tech. Okay, I'll save this file. Now After saving the file, I should be able to see the updated content. Okay, yes. So this means it is not required to you to enter into the container or log into the container and modify the content. So I can simply come here, change the content from the file system, which is the host file system, and I should be able to see the content updated inside the container as well. If if I connect to the container using docker exec dash it and container name, I will enter bash. So this I have. So now I'll change the directory to cd slash usr share nginx and html. If I use pwd, I should be able to see the current folder, current working directory. And if I use ls dash ltr, I should be able to see all the files inside the HTML directory. And if I cat index.html, this is the content what we have updated recently, right? And so what I will do is I will copy the same content index.html to backup.index.html. So now ls minus ltr. So the three files, I will remove the original file index.html file. Okay, now ls-ltr changes what we have done inside the container. It is going to reflect in the folder. If I modify anything from here outside the container, it is going to reflect inside the container as well. So now I will create another index.html file, echo, and I will use hello new. There is a new Docker course from Learn Cloud Tech. Hope we can understand. Okay, this is the file. So this is the text what I am going to update into the index.html file. I will create a file index.html file, and if I do ls-ltr, a new file will be created, cat index.html file. So this is the new text which we have updated, and if I browse the container website, we should be able to see the content whatever we have updated inside the container. So this means whatever changes we are doing inside the container, it is going to reflect inside the host file system as well. So we should be very careful whenever we are dealing with the files and folders which we have used to bind mount inside the container. If I delete all these files thinking that it is the temporary files or some files which are not related to the container, definitely the website will go down and there will be no access to the website. So this is one thing, and let us try and create the storage volumes. I will exit out of this container and I'll clear the screen. Let us create a storage volume. If I wanted to create a storage volume, all I need to do is I need to use the command docker volume create. If I want to list whatever volumes which is already created, so there is no volumes which are created. So for that, what I will do is I'll create a volume, docker volume create my underscore wall, and there is a volume created, docker volume list. So there is a volume which is created with the name my underscore wall, which is listed here. And If I use Docker volume inspect, inspect and my underscore volume, which is the volume which we have created, I can see this particular volume where it is located. The default location for any volume, whatever we are going to create, it will be under this var lib docker underscore var slash lib slash docker slash volumes, and this is the volume what you have created. So each of the volumes, whatever we are going to create, it will be under this location. And if I use docker ps dash a, there is a container which is already running. So now what I will do is I will create a container presenting this volume, whatever we have created. So I will use the docker run command again to run to create the container, docker run dash d, and name of the container web02, and I can specify volume like this, or I can use dash v, and which volume I wanted to map. I wanted to map my wall. Where exactly I wanted to map? I wanted to map to slash usr slash share nginx, and I wanted to map it to HTML. So this is the volume which I wanted to create and mount to this particular file system inside the container HTML, and I'll specify the port 8080. 8080 is already used, so I'll use 8081 and I'll map it to 80 ngx. So this is what we have to do to map the storage volumes to the Docker containers. I will use enter. So there is a container which is created, docker ps dash a, and we have the container. So we have not created any files for this web02 container. So it should, if I browse to the container, it should show the default web page of the nginx. And I will browse 127.0.0.1 8080 80 sorry 8081. This is for web02, and this is the default web page of the nginx. If I wanted to change, I have to get on to the container itself. I have to log into the container using docker exe-it, and this time I have to log into web02 bash and usr share nginx html ls. There is the default index.html, and this is the default web page of the nginx. So what I will do is I will copy this particular file, copy, and index.html to back.index.html. Okay, and I will remove this file, index.html file. Right. So now, if I, there is no files, there is no index.html file. There is only the back.index.html file what we have copied. So now, if I browse, definitely you should see the forbidden error, right? So we have the error. Now, if I move the file again, move index.html. So there is no index.html. I have to move to back.index.html to index.html. And now if I browse to the container, I should be able to see the web page again. And if I say ls minus ltr, there are same old files again, right? Now this way we will be able to create a storage volume and present the storage volume inside the Docker container. And just to recap, bind mount and volumes are two different methods to persist data, right? Bind mount is simply we have to create a folder inside the host file system, create a directory, and mount to the container file system. It's like mapping your network drive. It is like mapping the folder using the SMB or CIFS or NFS, right? So this is bind mount. And the storage volumes is simply like creating a VMDK file, attaching the VMDK file to the virtual machine in VMware, or creating a VSDX or VSD file in Hyper-V environment and attaching this VSDX or VSD file to the virtual machine in Hyper-V environment. So this is just for your information. And if I exit out of the container, yes, docker ps dash a, we have two containers which are running. In the previous step, what we did was we created a volume, we presented the storage volume inside the Docker container. Now, what if I have not created the storage volumes? I have not created the storage volume. I can simply create the storage volume while creating the container itself. For that, what I will do is docker run dash d and dash dash name for the container. I will use web03 now, and volume. I don't have any volumes now. I don't remember any volume. I'll simply leave blank, and this particular command is going to create a new storage volume with a default name. Okay, and it is going to present inside the container. So where I wanted to present, I wanted to use this particular folder inside the container. I'll use dash p, map it to 80 80 82, and I'll use 80 for the container port, and this time I'll use nginx again for the image. Simply by using dash v without specifying any volume name of the volume, and we are able to see the container created. Let us list the volumes. Docker volume list. So this is the volume what the command has created. We have not specified any name for the volume. And if I should be able to browse to the website http and 127.0.0.1 and 8082. So again, we should see the default nginx web page. So 8082 port is also running fine. So now docker ps dash a. Yeah, we are able to successfully browse to this particular container. That's it for this lab exercise for creating the storage volumes. If you like the video, please share and subscribe. Thank you and take care.